Catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.
Of course, time flies when you're definitely up to something good. But once you're not really up to anything, you just see time would be slow. I mean, I've been looking forward to having this conversation with the CEO of the fintech space. And right now, it's like time. I was waiting. It was so slow. And just watch, it will be fast in the next few minutes. But before I introduce my guest on the show, because he came in very early and I'm super excited about this one, we're going to be looking at rethinking the sustainability of African tech business model. I mean, if you're in the tech space or advanced business person, you would notice that a lot of business have come and gone, and some have had issues that they could not really explain. It's internal, it's things that they're still struggling to fix, and they decide that, you know what, we're just going to pack up the business. And most of these business that are being packed up have bright future. I mean, look at the gap. You would notice that there are a lot of things that could actually be fixed. And technology, which has come to play, is the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, it's time for us to change the way we usually do things. The traditional method is no longer working as effectively as it used to in the past, because technology advancement and innovations has come to change how we do businesses and how businesses operate. Joining me today on the show, I have Dr. Babatunde on the show, and we're going to be talking about the sustainability of the African tech business model. Good afternoon, sir. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome to the show, and thank you for giving us ample of your time. I know your schedule is quite tight, so I'm really honored to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
All right, so before, I usually like to introduce my guests, but I would like you to do us the honor of giving us a brief introduction for those people who really don't know you.
Okay, Babatunde Obrimah. Yeah. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Fintech Association of Nigeria. I'm a fintech enthusiast. I'm not a tech person. I'm just an administrator, but I've had experiences working in the banking sector, in the public sector, in consulting, and one of those who believe that the problems of Africa can be solved with technology. In my interest, that my first 2 degrees are in agriculture. I actually trained as an agronomist, a geneticist, with interest in genetic engineering of crops. So I believe that so the things that technology can do to change how we do things. Our population is growing faster than food production. So our current methods of food production are not sustainable. We need to start looking at other ways of doing it. So it's important that so technology is it's a way to go, and that's why even at our association we believe that you don't pay for payment, you pay for goods and services, you pay for food, you pay for transport. So we're an inclusive association. Our mantra is to drive digital inclusion in Nigeria and Africa. So when we say digital inclusion, it means that all the verticals are important: the agri-tech, the insure-tech, the ed-tech, the health-tech, the prop-tech, because those are what people pay for. And payment is just a platform or an infrastructure to ensure that those things work. So we need to, so for us, it's, those multiple backgrounds give me an interesting perspective into how I see technology and how it can be used to make a difference and grow Africa in particular.
Thank you so much for that introduction. You kind of just went and just took off my question. There's a question I like to ask every of the guests on the show today, and you kind of answered it, but I'll still ask it. Can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I usually like to get your unpopular opinion about the disruption of technology in our world today. So what do you think about how technology has disrupted the way we traditionally used to do things? What's your unpopular opinion about technology?
If we have to be more efficient and effective in the way we do things, we were efficient, but we're probably not as effective as we were. Technology helps us to be effective because it can be efficient and not effective. So I think what technology has done is to streamline things, make things better. So let me put it in perspective this way. So let's use finance, which is the way where what's it called? In some 20 years ago, if you wanted to take money from the bank, you needed to go very early in the morning, and then you get a tag, and then you can go back to work, because you can calculate if what your number is and how long it will take to get to you. So, and then you can come back to the bank about the time you know it will get to your turn. But now I can sit in my car, in my bedroom, in my dining, anywhere, and I can do the same transactions, that I would had to go to the bank to do. So I think technology brings convenience, and people want convenience. That's just the reality of it. Even the old woman in the village wants convenience. So if you can provide solutions that bring convenience, people will buy into it, and that's what technology is basically doing. It's providing convenience, and people are buying into it, and it's changing or disrupting the way people used to do things. So anyone that wants to survive today must have a paradigm shift mentality. That change is the only thing that's constant. Look, today we're talking about artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. We don't know what's going to be tomorrow. We're talking about blockchain, ion chain tomorrow. Something new keeps coming up, and that's what the beauty of technology. People are innovative, come up with new things that make life better for you and I.
All right. I'm just going to move straight, because you talked about the paradigm shift mentality, which I think that a lot of Africans are just trying to embrace for now, which is the reason why we at Africa Tech Radio were always reporting on technology advancements, one broadcast at a time, just to let people know what's happening around them and in the world. And one thing I've noticed around the fintech sector is the fact that so many startups come with the fact that they want to bridge the gap between payment options, also serving underserved minorities in the African space. In Nigeria, basically, you have people saying, I'm trying to bring banks closer to the users. I'm trying to let transaction be seamless and all of these things. But let's talk business model for all these businesses, especially the fintech. It is argued that majorly these businesses are being transformed by technology, but they're saying no, technology doesn't transform businesses. It is the model that transforms businesses. How true is this?
Yes, so technology is just a platform. So people don't buy technology, they buy solutions. Mm-hmm. So it's what you develop, what you produce that people buy. Technology is just an enabler to make those things happen, to make it either faster, to make it easier, to make it more acceptable. So that's what technology does. But what people are buying is those solutions. So, people want instant payment. What they are buying is instant payment. They don't care about what technology you use to achieve it. They just want to do a transfer to the next person, and the person confirms that I received it. Instead of waiting for 1 week to get a transfer. In those days, you write a check and you want to pay somebody in another part of the country. It takes 21 days for the check to clear. So, when I can do it, and why wait 21 days when you can get it in 5 seconds? So, that's what technology. People are buying the service or the product, not the technology. They don't even know what technology you're using.
Interesting. So, why is it important that there are models that are being put in place to be able to have a thriving business in this digital era?
So, running a business is different from technology. Mm-hmm. So let me just put it the way. So the principles of running a business, it starts with, so the issues of governance, issues of structure, and more important, legacy. The business you are running, is it just for you, or is something that will outlive you? And I think that's why models are important. That what am I trying to do? What am I trying to give back? What will happen after I've gone? And I think that's something every business person should look at. That's the challenge we've had in Africa. In Nigeria, growing up, I know a lot of indigenous companies that existed, and today they are no longer existing because the second generation could not carry on what the parents had done, because the secrets of doing those businesses probably died with the people who own those businesses, which should not be. So they built those businesses around individuals, but not around structures. And that's what they will need. Technology, people in the technology space need to guard against, building institutions around themselves as against building it around structures. That, look, if anything happens to me today, if I die, if I'm named, or anything happens, my business still goes on because the structures are in place. So models are important. To be able to run a business outside. So the technology, like I said, technology is not an enabler. It's what you use in the business. but the structure that runs the business is more important, because what are you leaving behind when you're gone? And I think legacy should be something everybody doing business should always think about. What happens? What legacy am I building? Will this survive after I'm gone? That's what helps you define the models that you want to use for your business.
All right, this kind of is more like an answer into my next question. I mean, you're talking about building the business more around structure than individuals, and I wanted to ask about longevity, which is also sustainability. When you look at startup, like I mentioned earlier on, you see that they're fizzling out. Meanwhile, there's high demand in the market for their needs, or there are even emerging markets that is coming. So what would your advice be to young builders and founders and even investors and VCs? What do you think they can do better to improve on productivity and longevity?
Well, I think that the recent developments in the tech space is already affecting how investors and VCs will look at startups. They will probably want to see issues of governance and structures in place. Look, in Nigeria, we have fintechs that are 30 years, 20 years and above, the likes of InterSwitch, System Specs, Unified Payments, eTransact, Champs. They've been around for over 20 years. And how did they do that? Structures, governance. I mean, I remember, what was it called? Way back in 2004, I was on the board of Unified Payment. It used to be called Value Card, and I was representing a bank on the board. So they ensured that they put in proper governance in place. People who could what's called, so they don't revolve around any individuals. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with individuals, but individuals need to. So what we advise at the association is that startups should have what you call board of advisors. People who are more experienced, who can guide and help you navigate the murky waters, and help stabilize, put proper structures in place. You might not want them on your board because you have some of the young startups who just want young people. But then you see, I mean, there's a proverb in the western part of Nigeria that says that it is the wisdom of the youth and the wisdom of adults that is put together to build cities. So we need to work together, both the old and the young, to be able to, but structures are important. So for young people, you need to look at, you should ask yourself, is it legacy I want to build? So if you want to build legacy, then you do things, you start looking at all those issues. What happens basically with startups is the fact that everybody is about market, growing your business, getting the numbers, and put things like governance, risk management, compliance, in the back burner. Not necessarily so that, look, let me get market share, get good valuation and things like that, which is good. But I think that it's getting to a point where we have to strike a balance between market and governance, because really it's governance that leads to sustainability. Proper structures is what ensures sustainability, irrespective of market. We've seen banks fail, despite the fact that they appeared profitable, they've got good branch networks, but what has gone wrong? Issues of ethics, governance, structures, and things like that. When you go deep into why banks fail, it's mostly have to do with ethical issues, governance issues, wrong business decisions, and at times it's because there's no proper governance. You're able to say, no, this is wrong. You don't do this. You don't do this lending, or don't invest in this. You're too single obligor concentration and things like that. So you need a strong governance to be able to checkmate what the guys in management are doing, to be able to ensure that there's sustainability and you're here for the long haul.
I mean, you've talked about governance, and a whole lot of this also is affected by policies and, of course, guidelines and framework from the government, because most stakeholders would be like, oh, these rules are kind of binding us to do certain things and not to do certain things. So I'm just thinking, what role do Nigerian and African leaders have at large to create an enabling environment for tech startups and be able to provide a space for innovation and entrepreneurship? So what role do they have to play?
So, I mean, they have an important role to play by ensuring that the policies that are enacted, regulations that come up, support innovation, support creativity, support sustainability within the startup space. Where there is no regulation, it leaves room for a whole lot of things to happen. So, I mean, take regulators, for example. It is part of their instruments to control the environment, to use tools like ban, freeze, suspend. But really, are those the best tools to use? And it happens at times where there isn't clarity on an issue. We believe that engagement is important. When you look at the tech space, it's an emerging space. Nobody knows everything, not even the operators. And innovation is always ahead of regulation. So we need to bridge that gap. To bridge it is by engaging. So leaders and regulators also need to engage the players so that we can work together to develop regulations and policies that work. Look, if a financial system or a system generally are as stable as regulations that govern it. So regulations are important. It's that what should be regulated, how shouldn't be regulated. Everything can be regulated. We just need to sit back, think through it, learn from everybody, and come up with the right regulations to be able to protect the economy and consumers and investors alike. So it's important that leaders have been listening here and are willing to engage with the operators. At the Fintech Association, what we have done in Nigeria is to introduce what we call the Regulator Forum. Regulator means regulators and innovators. It meets quarterly, and we have all the regulators coming to sit and talk about issues that affect the ecosystem. And regulators talk about what the expectations from operators. Operators are talking about the expectations from regulators. So how do we bridge that gap? I mean, the challenge also is the fact that operators are sprinters. They want to take a dash and complete the race. Regulators are marathoners. They take their time. So we need to find a way of bridging the gap and make it a win-win situation for all parties. All at the same time, we don't stifle innovation. We don't stifle creativity. We ensure that smart startups and small-scale industries grow, while at the same time the economy is protected, consumers are protected, investors are also protected.
All right, that was a very good one, sir. I'm just thinking of investors, because you talked about the investors also, which is people putting in their money into some of these great ideas and innovation. So beyond the innovations, what must they actually put their efforts into or redirect their focus and vision into for sustainability of some of this innovation? What are the things that they must look out for?
So that's what investors must look out for?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I think that the first thing investors look out for really is what is the solution? Who is this? What is this? What is this? What is this solving? What is the market for it? Is it acceptable in the market? What are the potentials for growth? Those are things that investors look at. But I think that, I mean, I still come back to beyond that now, investors will also be looking at what is the sustainability, even if it grows and it does well in 5 years and then it disappears, what happens? So, I mean, will it be here in 10 years? Will it be here in 15 years? Will it be here in 20 years? And I think those are new things that investors are beginning to look at, that beyond the solution, beyond the profitability, beyond the market share. What about sustainability? So I think that those are things that investors will look at. As an investor, that's what I will look out for anyway. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I know we're just trying to make this quick in time, because I know you have other things to run up to. But I have one last question for you, sir. With over 30 years in the industry and the works you've come to experience, things you've seen, I mean, 30 years is such a long time. You must have seen a lot over the years. So I would like for you, before you leave, to define what a successful business in Africa is like, in your own definition.
So, success is an interesting thing. They say that the road to success is permanently under construction. It's a road you never complete. So, what defines success? I think what defines success would be, that's where the issues of even governance comes in. Each institution will define its own parameter for success. When do you consider that you're successful? When you consider that you are there, that you finally arrived, if you want to put it that way. I think that will vary from institution to, but I think that success will be defined. For me, success is the fact that I've been able to build a good business, have good market share, and put structures in place that this business would outlive me. And I think for me, that is success, legacy, and being able to give back, making a difference. And I think that's, for me, that's success. That after I'm gone, what would people talk about? Oh, he built a business and the thing died with him. Or he built a business and 20 years after he's gone, the business is still here. I think that would be a measure of success.
Thank you so much for your time. And I'm absolutely sure there is more than enough wisdom to go around from all of the things you've said, how people should start looking at the legacy of whatever they're building, how the government can also work together with stakeholders, and of course put in place policies that makes business to thrive more. And of course, you talked about people embracing the paradigm shift mentality. These are all things that I feel people can just have a rethink or reflect on. Wonderful conversation with you, Sir. It's an honor to have this time with you on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Do have yourself a wonderful evening, sir.
You too.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.